Alright. Welcome back, guys. Harley Davidson just got the tabulation results of a recent consumer survey from their third-party survey group, and it doesn't look good. Let's discuss it on today's episode, and I want to get your thoughts on this after I explain what this survey is all about. Ramming speed. Well, as much as this 80 cubic inch Evo will give me, a little help from the Woods cam, well, apparently enough to beat the Tacoma out of the gate, but not much more. Ooh, doing well against Toyotas today. Can he outrun the minivan? Yes. The 1996 FLSTN, the Frankenglide. So when you go to these events that Harley Davidson hosts, where there's demo rides, and then when you sign up for their credit card, when you buy their motorcycle, you're opting into some surveys. And all they do is they collect your data, and they tell you that they're going to share your data with partners. Some of these partners are survey companies. Harley is paying them for them to collect this information, analyze it, and present it to them in a swallowable format. And I remember when these surveys were coming around in late 2023 and early 24. I answered a couple of them. And the data coming out has really got Harley perplexed and questioning how they're going to approach the future. Now, how do I know that? Well, I got a little bit of inside information from someone directly tied to this department and responsible for the report that was presented to Harley Davidson just before the holidays concluded via a Zoom meeting. And now they're scratching their heads going, what the heck is going on? So let's dive into it. So what the survey concluded was that of those surveyed, the average duration of time that their recent Harley Davidson motorcycle purchase was in their possession was 3 years. So they've owned that bike for 3 years. Now when I saw that information, I'm like, okay, everybody's trading in every 3 years, right? Harley Davidson is making motorcycles that are desirable, and every 3 years, the survey respondent said they had the bike for 3 years. Now the question didn't say, how long before you traded your motorcycle in? No, it just said, how long did you own the motorcycle? 3 years. So we could draw conclusions that they upgrade every 3 years, or they get bored with it in 3 years. It's time to move on to something else. But that wasn't the case. What they found out was that in 3 years' time, a Harley Davidson purchaser who recently purchased a motorcycle from them that responded to the survey said they owned the bike in all in 3 years. Another question in the survey was, how long have you been riding? And of course it gives you that, 0 to 6 months, less than 12 months, 18 to 24 months. What do you think the average answer was from these respondents? 36 months. 3 years. So now we're looking at data that says they've only been riding for 3 years. How long have they owned their motorcycle? 3 years. And then we found out, by calling this data, how often do you ride? How often do you currently ride? And of those who responded that they bought a bike within the last 3 years, who reported that they no longer ride, they were asked what was the reason why they no longer ride. And the top 3 answers were tabulated, and this is what they said. Number 3, no one to ride with. Now, for some of us, riding a motorcycle is about, being independent all on your own. But we're human beings, right? We all have that wolf pack mentality. And some of us want to have that wolf pack brotherhood, that connection with other riders. It's one of the reasons why after the World War II, the rise in popularity of motorcycle clubs happened. The guys got together and talk about their lives after World War II. Well, some people getting into motorcycles and buying a brand new Harley, they buy it because they want to be a part of a brotherhood, a kinship. And you might ask, well, why don't they join the Hog group? That's a great suggestion. Have you been to your Hog group? No, I'm a Hog member. They gave me a free membership when I bought my Harley 3.5, almost 4 years ago. Actually, it'll be 4 years next month. And they gave me a free Hog membership, and I maintained that Hog membership. In fact, I think I signed up for the the lifetime membership last year, the year before. And you get your pin and stuff like that, but you have to join your chapter. And of course, they assign you to the chapter that it's tied to your dealership. So every dealer pretty much has a chapter assigned to them. So the hog groups are there for you, but if you don't have a connection with anybody in the hog group, or you take a look at the hog group membership based on their social media postings, and you're like, I don't think I have anything in common with these people, then that's, maybe a route that you're not going to want to take. So perhaps dealerships need to have a means of, bringing in gently new members to a riding club. Maybe they should have, like, for new members only or new riders only group. If you got less than 3 or 4, 5 years experience, you got Harley riders, hog riders, the next generation, NG, hog NG.
Hey, boss. Who you?
The new gardener.
But I'm thinking that a lot of these guys and gals have looked at the hog, really haven't done any diligence with the hog group, or just took a brief look at it and said, nah, it's not for me. And like I said, I've joined the hog group by paying my membership dues, but I haven't shown up to a meeting. And personally, at 50 years old, I'm looking at the membership of my dealers, my local dealers hog group, and the next closest dealers hog group, and they're all very similar. And it's kind of intimidating. A lot of these guys have these vests with all these different patches on them, look like they're very experienced riders. That's one thing. And the other thing is that they're not my age demographic. They look to be all retired people. And the rides that they do don't seem to interest me because they're not really doing anything exciting. Maybe once a year they'll have a charity run that seems to be kind of cool, but again, they're not really going that far. It seems like they're just riding 30, 50 miles, having some lunch, and then 30, 50 miles back. And unless you're dialed in with them and they're your buddies, it's not going to be that interesting. It's just like high school all over again. You want to ride with people, you want to hang out with people that you got something in common. But within 3 years of your riding experience, the first year you're just kind of learning how to ride a motorcycle, and you're probably you're not going to want to hang out and do group rides because that's scary in itself. I can think back to my first group ride. I'm like, holy crap. What if somebody does something? What if I do something? And so on. So group rides, intimidating. They're riding solo, and they can't get out of that rut of riding solo. Their spouse isn't riding with them because the spouse is probably like, I'm not going to ride. And maybe they bought a motorcycle that's not too up-ready because maybe they bought a Sportster, and or they just weren't comfortable being responsible for their pillion. So they didn't progress their skills and practice with a pillion in a parking lot and learn how to do pillion riding or take advanced riding courses from a private firm that specializes in that type of training. Maybe they didn't have that access to them in their market where they live. The next reason why those who bought a bike in the last 3 years and no longer ride is their life changed. They lost interest. They lost interest in riding and had a life change. So why would you buy something, whether it was a Sportster 3 years ago, which was the Iron 883, which was at that time $10,900, all the way up to a CVO bagger, $50,000, $60,000. So somewhere in there, you bought a bike, and if you paid cash for it, you probably didn't finance it within 3 years. Yeah, you don't owe anything. Or you're still paying it off, it's sitting in your garage. Why did you lose interest? Why don't you ride anymore? Well, maybe they didn't have a riding buddy. Maybe they never got the hang of it. Maybe they did it for 2 or 3 weekends and they said, that's enough for me. So I think that's a misleading answer, and it's too wide open and inconclusive. Which leads us to the next response, the most popular response of those who quit riding after buying a brand new motorcycle within 3 years, and that's an incident happened. They fell off the bike, they got into a wreck, something happened that spooked them. An incident happened. Now, I can tell you within my first 3 years of riding, and I'll even extend it out to 3.5, I dropped my Sportster, not moving, twice, just trying to move it around, You know, so I wasn't riding, it was just in the driveway. And then I fell off my Sportster at low speeds 3 times. Never fell off my Softail at low speed, except for when I was riding white sugar sand. But they tell you this in the MSF course. It's not if, it's when you're going to have a low speed situation, when you're going to knock your bike over. One of my slow speed maneuvers, you know, I hurt my hand, so I was out. I couldn't ride for a month. And another one where we put on some new handlebars, but didn't lock them down tight enough after first use. And I went sliding at 35 miles per hour and scraped up my arm. But, you know, I was back to riding the following week after that. But those are things where you can get spooked. And then if you got a spouse in your ear after one of these low-speed wrecks where you hurt yourself and you're down for a month, you know, they might be concerned about you. And they're like, see what happens when you ride motorcycles? You're going to fall. You're going to get hurt. And they got the spouse in the ear because the spouse loves them and the spouse is concerned. But, you know, they have their own agenda. That's why if you ride a motorcycle, first thing I did, and I was told to do this by my daughter, was you need a life insurance policy. So I have a life insurance policy. And if you ride a motorcycle and you have a family and you're beholden to others besides yourself, I think it'd be prudent and wise to have an insurance policy, a life insurance policy on yourself. So those are the 3 reasons. An incident happened, they lost interest, change of life, and no riding buddy. And how that's important to Harley Davidson is that they're in the business of manufacturing motorcycles, right? So if no one's buying the motorcycles coming up behind us because they're having them for 3 years and they're ducking out, and maybe they, you know the whole psychology. If you have a great experience, you tell nobody, but if you have a bad experience, you tell 50 people. So all these people out there are going, it wasn't for me, and perpetuating their psychological issues into potential new riders. So what do we have to do to help the next generation, or even our fellow people in our same age group, to get into riding but also stick with it? Well, I think our big resolution, is to get other people involved in the sport by creating a community of riders where they're not intimidated to be friends with us, and it's really easy for them to join us on a ride or two, or come to a bike night, or come to an event. And also, rider education, I think, is another biggie. Take away some of that intimidation. Ongoing rider training so they can get familiar with it. Access to courses on your phone, on your app, for self-instruction. More group instruction, weekends and so forth. I mean, they got golf clinics all over the place. Why not motorcycle clinics, right? We are seriously in the need of that. Hey, Shovelhead Lounge. I think I'll go have some wings. Alright, well, that's it. I'm gonna go grab some wings, guys. You let me know down in the comments what you think we can do to help the next generation of riders, or even our fellow contemporaries that are our age, to get into riding and stick with it past 3 years. What can we do to help out, to grow our community? Alright, guys, thanks for coming along on this one. I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, go ahead and click the box right here in the corner, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one too. Take care.
How you doing, bro?
Bruh.
Good, man.
Man, I have a question for you.
What's that?
I know you're driving a motorcycle, but can you give me and my girl a ride home?
No, not on the bike. Sorry.
Yeah, it's too much, huh?
Yeah,
Too much on traction.
that's correct.